Hey everybody. I'll get switched over in a minute. Am I'm not entirely sure. Amaranth must be hosting somebody because it is. I'm not seeing Amaranth there. And oiled up tanning and bikini yoga. Taylor Jever again. Again, she must be doing just multiple streams where she's painting her chest. Either that or she's just showing reruns. I don't know. Mira, oh my God. I hope she's okay. Mira is got the freezer open, I think, and is showing like a massive collection of ice cream. Somebody must have broke up with her. And that's horrible. Impulse is on. Long live Impulse. Chicken Wing is looking really good. That's a nice out. Serene Wild's looking really good. Leonie Flive or something like that. I don't remember her. I probably followed her. And then Sagittarian Official is looking pretty good. She's doing beach yoga or something again. All right, let's go ahead and get to this. That is what I'm not watching to stream with you guys. I got to be honest with you. I was not planning on doing a stream today. Hang on. But I wasn't planning on washing my bed either. The only reason I'm washing my bed is I I took my last clean shirt today, and if I'm gonna do my shirts and that, I'm gonna do the bedding. I try to do my bedding either every week or every other week. It really hasn't been that bad because oh God, it's something that they got for when my dad had his was like going through hospice. But it's this pad. It's like 2 feet by 3 feet or 2 feet by 4 feet, and I sleep on that. So when I sweat, all I really have is the pillow cover, maybe the pillow, and that to wash. Because if I sweat and I get night sweats, and if I feel and the thing is, some of it's because it isn't the environment, it's me. There's times where I'm in there and I'm under covers, and then there's times I'm in there and I'm not, and I'm just hot as shit. Well, if I fall asleep and I'm feeling normal and I have like a heat spike while I'm sleeping, well, then I'll wake up all sweaty, or I'll wake up with the bed wet from me sweating. Because it isn't down by like my junk, it's up there by my neck and my head. It's like I really seem to sweat the worst from like about mid chest up is where it happens. And now what I'm gonna be doing here is I right now I just really want to get these. Like I said, I'm really not doing this to level these guys up. Okay, we can. Although some of them are going to get leveled up, and that's a good thing too. But for the most part, I'm using these, and I might change my mind. But right now, I'm looking at using these over there by my emerald farm, and so I took I had a bunch of emeralds over there anyways, and I just figured I'd come over and buy these because as I'm working on the sorting system. Oh, and the other reason, but yeah, so I wasn't planning on doing laundry today and anything, but it's like I was taking my last shirt, and so I figured I'd if you know, because here's the thing, the way the washing machine is, uh, the way the washing machine is, when I wash like the sheets or any of the bedding, like big honking pieces of clothes, and I don't know if this is a new thing or not, because that was one like they got that while I was working in Indiana, and I literally I have not used it that much even since I've been home because I literally don't have a lot of clothes. I threw a lot of clothes out when I was packing up to come home, stuff that didn't fit me and so on and so forth, or stuff that didn't fit me anymore. Uh, because the couple of years that I was dealing with, I had lost some weight, so I bought some new clothes. And then when I got this thing where I was getting lightheaded and passing out, I couldn't work out anymore, so I started putting weight back on. And so I'm like, well, unless I get better, and if I get better, I'll go back to work and I'll have money to buy stuff. So I got rid of all the stuff that no longer fit me after I got sick, or after I got really sick, I should say. And I don't like now, mostly because I stream. I have been because I would usually wear a shirt for 2 or 3 days. Um, Underwear, depending on how much I sweat and everything, that I would change a little more often. But for the most part, shirts, underwear, I just changed them when they were bad. And and so but since I've been streaming again, I have been changing my shirt a little more often. And so I'm like, and I do, and this is the other reason why I kind of wanted to stream. I still might not stream tomorrow. It depends on how I feel. But I was wrong. Tomorrow's not the day I got to go to the doctor. I was a little more out of it than I guess I thought, but I got the dates wrong. And it'll be, I got to double check, but it'll be later in the week. And so if I can, I will stream tomorrow. Otherwise, it'll be later in the week, and then I might miss another day uh, because of that. Okay. And okay. Now, um, oh, I already screwed up. Oh well. Okay. Oh my God. Um, I will try, and mostly because I just don't want to forget it. The thing I saw was really, really good on it, and I will have to look it up. But just to give you like a little cliffhanger to it, and it'll be later in the stream if I do it today. Um, it'll be talking about, I think it's called the Younger Dryas or something like that. Uh, it's gonna hinge on Atlantis a little bit, but Atlantis is a minor focus of the discussion. I just, if I remember right, and I will try to look up, like I said, I'll look it up and I'll look up the podcast. There's this guy I was watching, oh shit, a week or two, maybe 3 weeks ago. Uh, he, uh, he had a guy on, and I gotta be honest, I don't know if the guy's legit or a kook. I really enjoyed the podcast. I really enjoyed it. It's just whenever it's this subject, especially when it's new people, I'm always a little skeptical. Especially new people making big claims. Because he was making a comment. Uh, he was making a comment about other people that I find to be credible. And like one of the things, because he was commenting on Lou Elizondo. Now, Lou Elizondo, I'm not going to claim is perfect, but he seems real credible to me. He seems really, really credible to me. And it doesn't mean that everything he says is right. I mean, maybe he makes mistakes. You know, he's the first one to admit that he doesn't really know everything. There's things he still, but I think he's well aware that he knows more than a lot of people. And this guy was basically stating how Lou Elizondo didn't do a lot of interviews or something like that. That was his claim. And I think it's one of those things where you got to determine what the meaning of the word a lot is. But I personally watched him do a lot of interviews. He quit doing interviews because of the nut jobs in the fucking UFO fan base. Like, you had people, and this is what I consider myself, because there was somebody who was I was talking a pretty good game. I have looked into a lot of this stuff, and I think there are people that would acknowledge it on certain things. I know a fair amount, at least what's been reported, the stories going on. If I'm having a clear day and I can remember it. But somebody made a comment about me being a UFO researcher. I go, look, I'm not a researcher. I go, I'm like a hobbyist. I'm someone that reads on this, and some days, like right now with my health issues, some days I can remember it, some days I can't. But it would be like someone like me going and talking to Lou or those witnesses they had in the UFO hearing this past week, and acting like I know more about what they saw. And that's what he was running into. Where he said, yeah, I'm gonna do and he'd already done a lot, but he goes, I'm gonna finish up and do the interviews I had committed to, unless scheduling conflicts come up. But he said, I'm not gonna be doing any more. And somebody, like, he was doing an interview, like a good interview, and they were asking him why, and he goes, well, the problem is, he goes, I want to go out there and get the truth as I am understanding it out there. And he goes, there are people out there that I've gone and I figure, well, I'll go do an interview and I'll share what I know and they can learn and, whatever. And he goes, they come to me and act like I'm supposed to be there taking their word for it and taking notes and learning from them. And he goes, I literally have had people like, oh, well, you need to fucking learn what I'm talking. And he's like, what do you know? All you've done is read some books that I doubt are credible. And then, you know, okay, what do we got here? I'm going to need these later, so. Okay. Yeah, but I think they call it the younger Dryas, and I'll try and even get you. I'll go to the thing on YouTube and I'll see if I can get you the name. I don't have unless it's on YouTube. He I think is involved in programming or at least one show on I think it's called Gaia GAIA, and I don't have the money to. I don't have the money to watch that. If that changes, that is something I would definitely like to have. Like, if I had the money, a subscription to Gaia is something I would at least do a couple months out of the year to catch up on what they got and then maybe let it elapse. But another one I would like would be like Acorn TV and BritBox because I think the shows on there that they have are really, really good. And okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go get some more of those blocks from the villagers. But what I'll do is I'm going to get over there, and I have to wait anyways because some of those villagers, I got to let them recoup before I'll have any more stuff from them. And then what I'll do is I'll get on YouTube and I will try to find, I'll even get you the video name, but I'll have to remember to get on there and change the title of this when I get done and actually put the younger drug because I forgot to do that. I forgot I was gonna do that. That's when I decided I was gonna do laundry and I was gonna now if I get lightheaded I'll have to quit anyways. But um, barring having some health issues or having like one of them little health attacks, uh, I will be doing this for a couple hours and I might run out of because I don't really have that much. I just found the video interesting, and yeah, let me get over there. And I know what some of you are thinking. GAFKC, you built all these portals as shortcuts, so why are you riding around on a horse? Well, I'm mostly talking. I do this anyways, but I'm mostly talking. And this way, people get to see some scenery instead of just me standing around in one frickin' place so much. I'm going to make sure I'm in peaceful. Peaceful for you and me. Somebody's mowing and I don't know who is. I don't think it's here because when before the stream started I went and looked to see if anybody was here, but I can hear mowing outside. So it's either the neighbors or it's across the street. Okay. Now yeah, I'm gonna get a lot of these. Okay, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and look that up. I'm gonna jot some notes down. Uh Give me one sec. I'll be right here. You can see me. I'm not going anywhere. I might be talking to myself. Sometimes it's the only way I can get good conversation anymore. Okay, and I don't know how this happened, but I hit the home button, which should take me to Chrome's home, and it's taken me to Samsung. So they hijacked my browser. Uh, oh shit! I want to go to YouTube. I got some stuff I need to watch. YouTube's put it up, and I didn't have time to watch it. Cause like yesterday, I tried to stream yesterday, and it's like holy shit. I okay. The video, it's Julian Dory, and this is like at least the second interview that he's done that I've watched. I mean, he's the one doing the interviewing, and it's I don't know when it came out. That's not giving me a date, but it's like 3 hours long, 3 hours 2 minutes and 27 seconds long. Atlantis archaeologist finds new evidence of ancient city worldwide. Okay, now I'll see if I can hang on. Okay, now it's got Matt LaCroix, M-A-T-T, first name, LaCroix, L, little a, big C, R-O-I-X. And he's the guy, if I got the names right, he's the guy that was on Gaia. And first thing I want to do is I want to state, uh, I'm not going to look it up, but I think it's the younger Dryas. And if I've got the name wrong, what it's talking about, what it's intended to describe, if I've got the name wrong, is uh, there is a period, and I think even mainstream archaeology admits this. They just don't admit to all the other conclusions based on their view of the evidence. I gotta go to the bathroom. I will be right back. Okay. We are slight delay. I can't say live. I really hope I don't need all of these, but okay. Well, anyways, the younger Dryas, there are some, and I gotta be honest with you. I've always wanted to believe in this, but I think if the people that are doing the work are not lying, if they're telling the truth, I think I think there's more evidence of than not that Atlantis was real. And I want to throw this out there. There was a show, I think it was called Sightings. If it wasn't Sightings, it was one of the other shows just like it. And they talked about forbidden archaeology. And the book that the guy referenced, I used to be able to find it. I could go and look for it. It's out of print. You can't buy it anymore. The mainstream archaeologists, right or wrong, killed it. It's not in publication anymore. It probably didn't sell very much. Checkers sells better than chess. And the guy that was there talking might have been the author of the book. I don't remember. It's been a while. Well, the thing he was saying is, like, at the Smithsonian, there used to be this artifact there, ancient. It's called, they called it a stylized bug. And it was an old rock carving or wood carving or something. It was an old carving from like several thousand years ago. And they sold replicas of it because they used to sell replicas of it in the gift shop for keychains. He goes, I got one here. He still had it. And to be fair, I think other shows have, but they're shows I don't watch. So I don't know the show, but I'm willing to bet that other shows, competitors like Ancient Aliens and stuff, have done it too. But Ancient Aliens, what they've done is they've taken their, because there's like more than one of these things. They're like old carvings. And what they did is they made one and they added a few things that they think were gone. And it's like perfectly aerodynamic. They could throw it through the air and it glides almost perfectly using the exact dimensions. Like they're like when you look at it, you know, it's it's got the nose. It's got like the nose, and then the wings come back, and then they come in. I think they come back at a diagonal, and then they go to a tail, and there's something missing, and you can see that it's missing, and it's the only thing they changed on it because what they did is the missing thing they figured would have like part of an airplane. It would have a spoiler or whatever it's called. It's that thing at the end of the plane that directs air. It's like a little mini wing at the tail of the plane. Well, they added that, and this thing here, like when you watch it, when it's going at a certain speed, it flies nice and level, and then as it slows down enough, it just, as soon as it gets slow enough, not when it's going fast, it flares. The nose comes up and it comes in for a landing. And it's basically the way it is. And the way they talked was when it was a stylized bug, the Smithsonian was fine with it. And then somebody, this would have been after the space shuttle came out, somebody made a comment that it looked a little bit like the space shuttle. And that's when the Smithsonian pulled it off the shelves. And there's apparently a lot of stuff. There's a lot of things that over the years that don't, they kind of question mainstream archaeology. And as soon as it draws questions, the mainstream archaeologists want to banish it. They don't want it around. And like the archaeological evidence of Atlantis is another one. Uh, if you are an archaeologist and you come forward with proof that kind of supports the theory of Atlantis, that's the same as a pilot or a military officer coming forward saying, "Well, we saw a UFO." You get the same treatment from it, and well, this younger Dryas period, it coincides with the working theory of when Atlantis was around. Uh, and this was the thing, the guy that was on there for some of the stuff that he was talking about. He goes like, "I'm not even going to talk about Plato. He's going to talk about other stuff." Uh, One of the things he pointed out, and he's right on this, whether you like it or not. There's all these old civilizations, and for whatever reason, uh, when the civilization fell, other civilizations either took to living there, or if it got buried, they built on top of it. They found these sites, and so the theory is like, well, what is so special about these that makes them? Is there something special there, or is it just because like it's a coastal area or it's a good hunting area and so on and so forth? Well, this younger Dryas, this is the period that when you look at it, it matches up with when Plato, Solon, and others said Atlantis was destroyed. And this is the thing he said. He goes, we know when Atlantis was destroyed, and that was around 11,000 years ago or something like that. And he goes, what we don't know for sure is when it was built. So he goes, the working theory is that, and again, they're guessing. They're absolutely guessing. Because one of the things the guy said, he goes, we can't carbon date rocks. We just can't carbon date rocks. And I'm going to go see if I can cut some trees. And if I can't cut trees, I'm going to fire up the... and I can cut a shitload of trees. That's a beautiful thing. He goes, we can't carbon date rocks. And he was pointing out like that, and I have never, like, if I've heard of these, I am not remembering them. I was drawing a blank, but he was talking about two different libraries that were found. And if I'm not mistaken, they were found either in the 1800s or in the early 1900s. Because there was a scientist, linguist or something. His last name was Smith. He's the first one who figured out how to read the Sumerian language, or parts of it at least. And I think he said that happened in 1905. And then like almost like 80 or 100 years later, modern day scientists have discovered that everything he said was true. And what it was is there was this, it was like, and the guy said, he goes, this finding that they had, it is so much better than the Library of Alexandria, which I think is one of the seven wonders of the world. And he goes, there's this library they found, and then he said, and he goes, it is seconded by, and he mentioned another library, and the guy doing the interview, that Dory, he goes, so he goes, you don't even have the Library of Alexandria like second. You you've got it at least third, and the guy goes, well, he goes, I'm not saying it wasn't a good library. There was a lot of information there, but he goes, one, it was all paper. And two, he goes, it did not cover as much information as what these two libraries did. And one of the things that they found in here, and he said this Smith guy over in England, he was just like locked up in a good way, just, hyper, just speaking in vagueness here. But he was locked up studying this stuff. He just studied it and studied it and studied it. And what he found was he found the story of Gilgamesh in Sumerian, and he found it in two other languages that he knew. Because he said, and this is the thing that he said, and again, I don't know. I literally don't know. I'm passing it on. I'm not claiming it's true. I'm not claiming it isn't. I honestly don't know. But he said the Sumerian language, he goes, is a language apart. He goes, you want to talk about an alien language? He goes, that's the Sumerian language. Because you don't have to sit there and talk about E.T. or Roswell. The Sumerian language is an alien language. Because he goes, there is no language like it on Earth. Hang on, I'm gonna go. Stand right here, and I will bring back the sun. But that's what he was talking about. He's like, hey, look, it's an alien language. Like and the other thing he said is there is another civilization, according to what he's dug up, and I've never heard this before. Or if I have, I've forgotten it, or I'm not remembering it today. But when he was talking about it, I'd never heard this. It was not ringing a bell. But he was basically talking about there was another advanced civilization with Atlantis. Like there was another one like Atlantis. It's one I haven't heard of. But it was like, I think he was referring to it as like an ancient Athenian or something like that, or an ancient Greek civilization. And he said, I might be wrong. I gave you the name of that video at the beginning of this. I really recommend you go watch it. I'm going to basically try to cover it in broad terms. But the way I've been feeling lately, I'm not entirely sure. I might be messing this up. I don't know. But he said there's similarities between their language and the precursing civilization. Like there's similarities between that ancient Athenian and the new Greeks, or the new Athenian, the civilization that came later. And but he said with the Sumerians, there's no other language that has any similarities to it. And so he goes, it's kind of like an ancient, or like an alien language, all to its own. And so I don't know, but that's what he was talking about. And the one thing I want to add to that is, well, first of all, when you look at the Sumerian language, or the Sumerian rumors, gossip, whatever you want to call it, there's a lot of stories that appear in the Sumerian language that other cultures later on copied, like the floods. Really, David versus Goliath might be a retelling of Gilgamesh, just dumbed down, made real simple. Another one that I think is a Sumerian tale, I know there's an Egyptian version of it, but like the idea of the Son of God dying and being reborn 3 days later. I believe that. I might be wrong. I'm not 100% sure. But that, I believe, is in Sumerian legend. It's definitely an Egyptian legend, where you've got the person that died, he was murdered, and he was brought back to life 3 days later. And then there's just a lot of where it's like, look, maybe the story of Jesus isn't real. It's at least not original. And maybe they borrowed it. Maybe the people that did it, maybe they sort of added his name to it and made it up to sell it based on an old legend or an old story. I don't know. I'm just saying. Hang on. Okay, I gotta go up here and time to make the donuts. I don't know that there's one in here, but I want to get rid of this one too, because that's a fairly normal thing where you get these big overgrown trees. I almost, part of me wishes that they would knock this off. The aesthetic side of me, because I really hate these when you're trying to get something, when you're trying to make a scenery here. But the part of me that has to chop these down to get wood and stuff actually likes them because they're a little bit of a hassle, but you get a shitload of wood out of them. And oh, there we go. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I am going to go and fire up. Yeah, I'm going to fire this up and I'm going to earn some loot. And then as soon as I can, I will plant the trees. But yeah, this younger Dryas, but it basically matches up with what is known about the Atlantis story. Like, and this is the thing, like you had an ancestor of, I think, Plato's, Solon. He told the story, and this was this was hundreds of years, maybe even a couple thousand years before Pluto. But he told the story of Atlantis. And what happened was, then Pluto came around. Well, the times match up. They match up with the younger Dryas, and this is the thing. Like it was an ice age or something like that. You'd have to look it up, but it was something where I believe sea levels rose, and we had an ice age. And they said that in itself is unusual because usually when you have an ice age, water freezes, so you would think that the water levels would go down. But they said if, like, meteorites or asteroids hit in the Arctic and just flash melted a bunch of water, that would account for it. There's other explanations, too, that work. And, and the other thing is, like, what if some ancient civilization fucking did it with lasers or energy weapons or fucking nuked the shit out of the fucking... Because the thing is, and they were talking about, like, if it was meteorites in the Arctic, northern Arctic, or the southern Arctic, there wouldn't be any evidence of it. Because that was one thing he was talking about. Like, well, if the asteroids hit somewhere, like where it was warm, we could see it. Like, they got that one big crater and they figure that's the one that took out the dinosaurs. But he said if it landed in the Arctic and was covered up by ice, we wouldn't know. We just wouldn't know. And and then there's God, I think this is in Russia. And this, God, the area where it's in, it starts with a T, and I can't remember the name of it. But it is, they, all the evidence points to something like an atomic bomb or something going off in that area. And it was at a time where, they're saying there was no civilized earthlings that could have possibly done that. But it's there. You got the fallout from what looks like an atomic or a hydrogen bomb. And I don't know. But all of the dates match up. And for the longest time, mainstream archaeology could basically say, well, there just was no civilizations. You're not seeing any other examples of megalithic sites back then, and so on and so forth. And the thing is, now we've got Göbekli Tepe. And we've got all the other evidence around Göbekli. It's like Göbekli Tepe. God, don't quote me on this. Don't trust. Verify. Verify it. But it's there's something like 4 to 7 ancient megalithic sites all in that, and I believe all of them have the name Tepe at the end. So you got Göbekli Tepe, and then there's like 4 to 7 more Tepes there. And some of those, and they talked about this too, some of those sites, they were built, and then the evidence is that they were purposely buried. And his theory on it, I don't know if it's true or not, but his theory on it is that he thinks it was buried because they intended to come back. Because he was talking about there's evidence that there, and I've seen some of this on Ancient Aliens and others, where they talk about these huge underground cities. And he was talking that there was something that happened, and it created like a plasma effect where you had, he goes, you got it now where people are avoiding going out because it's like 100 degrees or 110 degrees. He goes, there were parts of the world, and he said it was not uniform. There were places where it was and it wasn't. But temperatures reached like 2,000 degrees. And it just killed off anybody that was above ground. And even some of the people that went underground weren't able to survive it. And but he said, that he thinks that's what happened, that these people built it, saw that, because he said, he goes, there's a lot of evidence that these older civilizations were more advanced than us in some ways. Like he goes, like they didn't have cell phones, and let's be honest, they did not have Minecraft. They didn't have Minecraft, they didn't have Call of Duty, they didn't have PUBG, and they really didn't have Diablo. So, really, how advanced were they? But these advanced civilizations understood the cosmos more than we did. However, they did it. And, and who knows, maybe they were warned by the Anunnaki, but they covered it up, and he figures that the theory, they either covered it up to preserve it for us. So maybe they knew they weren't going to be surviving, or they covered it up figuring, well, we'll dig it up and then we'll use it again when we come back. Well, then they never came back, whether they died or moved on or vanished or whatever, or ascended to a higher plane as energy beings. I don't know. And the other thing that he talked about that I found, seriously, go watch that video. I kind of told you, that James Dory or whatever. And, but, oh, no. I'm going to get out of here so that he despawns. And then I'll go to sleep down here too. So I'll stand still and I will bring back the sun. All you primitive pillagers. But they if I start coughing a lot, I'm just gonna pack it up, and I'll sit here and wait till my laundry's done. But the other thing that he started talking about was because they basically said hey, well there's no other well now they've got all these megalithic sites. And the other thing he talked about is apparently there are some, and again, I'm not so sure the evidence is as good for this, but the way he was talking, he has come to this theory based on ice core samples that they've taken, I think in two different spots. I don't know if it's the North Pole and the South Pole, but it was like two different locations he was talking about, and they've taken like core ice samples. And it is showing them this, but he thinks where the theory is that Atlantis might show that there is a civilization that goes back like 20 to 50,000 years. And so on and so forth. He's saying that they have discovered like that giant library, those two giant libraries that he was talking about that they found, and other stuff, that there's talk in there that and other races, because he was talking about somebody who had found a race with all this like secret information. And normally what they do, and again, they could still get fucked up. This is my theory, and it's wrong. Like you take like Christianity, and there's a really good book called Misquoting Jesus. I highly recommend, if you're interested in this, I highly recommend you read it. But what happened is this guy, he became a born-again Christian in high school. And when he got out of high school, he wanted to go and actually learn how to read the scripture in its original languages, because he thought that would get him closer to God. And then when he went to these schools, it kind of opened his eyes. Like one of the things he came to the conclusion of is that if you're kids, if you're young, if you're really, really into religion, either just stop watching this, or at least just take it as a theory. Don't put a lot of weight in it. You feel free to be you, as long as you're not trying to overthrow the government and take away women's health care and shit like that. As long as your religion is personal to you and you're not forcing it on anybody, I'm completely cool with whatever shit you want to believe. I really am. And I mean that sincerely. You go ahead and you be you. As long as you're not trying to force your... It's like if you're gay. If you're gay, I'm completely okay. Now, if you want me to start sucking dicks because you do, well, then we got a problem. That if you want, if your beliefs force you to take your dick out and want to wave it in my face, that's where we're going to have a problem. And it's the same way with religions too. But what he found was, and he puts this in his book, he found that what he went through in high school, almost everybody goes through that. You have these moments where you feel lost and there's something missing in your life. And he's like, you just need to grow up. You need to find a hobby. You maybe need to get some therapy. He goes, you don't need to delve into a religion. Well, then the other thing he found was that as he started going to read the scripture in its original languages, is that he found out that there were multiple versions of the scriptures. I think Oh God. This is another one. I'm not 100% sure on this, but I think it was called like Mill's Greek Bible, and this thing was written a while ago. But that thing there was written, and it showed like something like 1,000 or 10,000 different versions of Scripture. Like they found at least two different versions of the Lord's Prayer, and he explained that for historians like him, one of the things they do is they look at them a lot of it, some of it they can carbon date, some of it they can't, because like you can't carbon date rocks. So some of the stuff that they found these on, you can't carbon date them, or they're real rare and brittle, and the people that own them or control them are not going to allow you to destroy a little piece of it so you can get your carbon dating, or they've been inundated with smoke, which throws off the carbon dating because of fires and other stuff. And so what happened is, uh, if they can't carbon date it, if they cannot establish through other means, the method that the historians and the scientists use is if you have two different versions of something and one of them is clearly written better than the other one, then what they do is they assume that the one that is better is the copy. Because they can't figure, and it's a working theory, they could be wrong, but the theory they're using is if you are going to copy something and change it, you're going to try and improve it. Like, God forbid, if I wrote something and somebody really nice was going to rewrite it and then send it on, they would probably be correcting my failure to use punctuation and the other, like mine would be the original and you'd be able to tell by the others. Um, and like one of the things he found when he was doing, well, two things that he found while he was doing this that I'll just point out and then I'll try and get back onto the subject is uh, he went back and he found that in older copies of a story, you will not find the let he who lives in glass houses cast the first stone or something like that. If you go back far enough, that does not exist in the Bible. And he goes, and if you come forward a few hundred years, what you find is that there was somebody that read that passage and it inspired them and they wrote it in the margin. Like, hey, what I'm taking from this is if you live in glass houses, you shouldn't throw stones. And then you go forward, and then they started copying that in the margin. Like, and if you watch like Babylon 5, like when Jakar started writing his book and they treated it like it was the new book of Jaquan or whatever, and they were copying it and all this other shit. Well, he basically explains that, hey, this coffee mark from when Garibaldi was reading it, now that stain is copied for all future copies. And that's kind of what they were taught. It's not exactly the same thing, but when that guy wrote it in the book, all future copies had it. Well, then after a while, somebody just added it in there. It was edited in. So it originally was not part. And this is one of the things he'll say is when you look at the Bible today, it is a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy going back 2,000 years or 1,000 years or more. And he said, even if, and so he's like, well, we can't really trust the Bible because it's not the original Bible. It is edited. It's been changed. Even if the original Bible was the Word of God, which he's not claiming it is, he goes, this is not the Word of God because it's not the original Bible. And he kind of mentioned that that's what, and when you look at it, this is why so much is fucked up with religion, because these people that follow the New Testament, it's a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy, and it doesn't mean what it used to. And the other story that I will add to this is he found that it's a section in there, and it's a very important section. and it's got to do with when Jesus was on the cross. And what he notices is he found this copy of the Bible, and it is a copy of the Bible. Now, if you read his book, he explains exactly which one it is. It is one that has been widely used to make newer Bibles. They use it, they quote it, and there is a symbol in there, and I can't remember if it's Greek or Aramaic, but there's a symbol in there, and it's a symbol, and it has a dot above it, and it's the language that it's written in. With the dot, it means one thing. Without the dot, it means almost the exact opposite. And he couldn't figure out because the dot was a different color than the rest of it. So, like, the dot, like the symbol looked like the rest of the ink on the page. And the dot was like a different color. It was a lighter, like a purple. Instead of being black, it was like purple or something like that. Well, he did a little investigating, and what he found out is that dot was bleeding through from the back of the page. And it's the part of the story where Jesus is on the cross, and he is basically talking about going on with God, or God going on with him. And when you take the dot off, because he found out that it was bleeding through from the other side of the page, it literally means the opposite. So the gist of the story would be Jesus was screaming as he was crucified, "Why have you abandoned me?" What in the fuck? Oh. Ooh. How the hell did that thing get spawned? I think my brother's snoring. I thought it was a zombie. I'm like looking around and I'm like, well, there's nothing around me that could be coming off the TV. And then I'm like, oh wait, I think it's him snoring. And but no, and to me it would be kind of like, the like that if you watch that movie Joan of Arc, that scene in there where, it's near her end, and she had been getting help. Something had been helping her according to the story, and then she wanted to know why they did that to her, and they're like, well, you weren't humble anymore. You started taking credit, you started getting an ego, you started getting full of yourself. And and who knows, maybe it was the same thing with him, but that's what he is saying it was. It's actually a misquoting of him in that story. And well, anyway, so that is why, I mean, like all through the process, even after they started writing the Bible down, there was this screw up because there was just no quality control. Like, you'd have these morons copying it, and somebody's like, oh, well, my take on this is, those who are in glass houses shouldn't throw fucking rocks and blah, blah, blah. And then they wrote it, and then instead of just thinking that, they wrote it in the book, and then somebody started copying that. And then a couple hundred years later, somebody actually put it into the book. And with the Jewish faith, my understanding is once they started writing it, it was a lot like when you heard Jakar talking about it. Like, if they wrote it, if they screwed up anything, they'd have to throw it out and start over. It was like extreme quality control for when they started writing it. But my understanding is that at first it was verbally documented. So they would just tell it to each other, and they would pass it on that way. And like it was something like 1,000 years, they passed on the story of the Old Testament. Well, that's where it got fucked up, in my opinion, because like, and they talked about this in the video where they were talking about the telephone game, like you tell someone, they tell someone, and then when it goes around the room or goes around the school, it gets back to you, and it's a completely different story. Kind of like, gossip in the Republican Party, One person tells somebody that, Trump tried to steal the election, and the next thing you know, it deals with, Hillary's server and, Bill Clinton using cigars on an intern again and all this other bullshit. And they talked about that. Well, there was this place where they would have one person that would know the story, and he would have like an apprentice or a backup. And then once they knew the story, they basically were like hermits. They spent very little time with the village. They'd kind of go and live with the sheep up by the hill or whatever in a cave. And this guy went there and wanted to learn their story, and he said, well, they wouldn't talk to him at first, so he ended up basically camping with him. He stayed with him for like 10 years or more. And eventually they came to trust him, and he told the story. Well, that was one of the things they said, that, this idea of Atlantis is not really unique, that there's been this cycle after cycle after cycle where great civilizations come and they get wiped out, and then humanity has to build up from the beginning again. And the theory that they've got based on that is that humanity is actually something like 200,000 years or more, not ours, but humanity in general has been around for like 200,000 years or more. And so I don't know. But it was a very, it's like 3 hours long, and the whole thing, I found it riveting. I started watching it, and then I had to leave, and I made sure, I actually remembered it, but I made sure, and I came back and watched it again. And then the other thing that I kind of speculated on it was, there's two authors, and I quite frequently get them mixed up. And Eric von Däniken or something like that. He's one of them, and the other guy, like, he's a young, well, at the time he was younger, but he was no glasses, dark hair. The other guy, I believe, he either had white hair or he had lighter skinned hair, and he had glasses and a big old fucking mustache. Däniken, I think, was clean shaven for most of his life. And one of them, and I can't remember which one, I get them mixed up all the time. One of them wrote a book called The 12th Planet, where he did this, again, whether he's wrong or right, I don't know. He did the research, and what he found was the evidence he found, the documentation he found, led him to believe that there was like a 12th planet that visited us I can't remember, like every 3,000, 30,000, or 300,000 or some bullshit. But they visited us. Like they only came within range of us every so often, and they would come and visit. And I think it kind of hinted that we were kind of like an archaeological or agricultural experiment for them. They basically put us here kind of like those engineers in Prometheus or whatever. They came and basically put us here, and they honestly wanted to see what we would do. And what I'm wondering, and again, this is just me. This isn't them. Nobody was making this. I think he even put the comment on there. Like when you read that, and they talk about how and again, this would be that recurring cycle. Those ancient cultures we're talking about, going back not 20,000 years, but maybe a couple 100,000 years. But it was like a recurring cycle. Well, what if what if that's why we keep getting wiped out? Maybe they come here and they don't feel that we've done good enough, and they decide, like, I've seen it in movies and that, where, hey, God's gonna wipe us out and start over with the dinosaurs again. Well, maybe that's what's gonna happen. Maybe something is gonna come and visit us, and they're gonna look at the way we treated the planet. Maybe they're gonna look at the flat earthers and the anti-vaxxers and the people that want to pollute. And maybe they'll look at people like me that play Minecraft and go, my God, there's so much better things you could be doing. I really hope that they look at the people that fucking, I think, drugged or poisoned me, and I hope they just fucking wipe them right out for being horrible fucking people. And if you got anybody that, maybe they'll look at people that are stealing shit when their parents die, and they'll view them as bad and wipe them out. I don't know, but and who knows? Maybe that's why some of these Republicans, that maybe they know this. Maybe because there's rumors that the Vatican knows this. There's rumors that German scientists discovered some of this, and there's rumors that people in our military, maybe not elected people, but there's people in our military that might know this. People in our government, bureaucrats that might know this. Well, maybe some of these Republicans figured out, and it's why they don't give a shit. Maybe they know we're all going to die in like 1,000 years or 100 years, so they're just going to get what they can before we go. I really don't know, but you look at, if you knew the world was going to end and there was absolutely nothing you could do about it, would you really give a shit if Matt Gaetz was like, trafficking girls? I would, but I could see how somebody might, and they might be like, well, who cares about the school shootings, because we're all going to be dead in a couple of years. I could honestly see that. Well, who fucking cares about taxes? Who cares about a fucking budget? Who cares about bridges? Because when Oumuamua comes back, there's going to be a fleet of them, and they're going to fucking wipe us out, and they're going to start all over again. You just never know. And And then the other thing they pointed out, if I can remember it, oh yeah, this was a really big one. He said that if you go back far enough with these megalithic sites, they all seem to be pointing at true north. And it's the stuff that they are pretty sure that was built before, I believe, the Younger Dryas, and there was a change after that. And this is what he kind of linked this up to the. He kind of linked this up to the. See that there? I went up there with a bad omen, and it didn't give me the bad omen. There's no bad omen. It's just it wasn't nothing, and I'm just fucking messing around. And but the thing is, he said all of them that were before the Younger Dryas, I think is what he said. They're true north, because the buildings appear to be orientated towards north. And I fail, but I try to do that with my buildings here on Minecraft. I always try and put the main entrance north. And I know on this one I've gotten lightheaded and I've just screwed it up. I usually try to do that, and or I put one on all compass points, north, south, east, and west. But he said that the ones that happened before the younger Dryas are all like, it's either 2.3 or 23% off. They're all off. So it's almost like there was a big shift. And he said, for the one of the things that would explain that is if the Earth never used to be tilted. And he said it would explain the weather that they, in the older stories, the weathers you talk about and whatnot. And he was basically hinting at that there's some evidence then that something catastrophic happened. I think I got the right. I get too lightheaded. I'm just gonna quit, but I'm gonna do it for as long as I can. And but no, so there was something that happened to the Earth which adjusted the tilt, and it adjusted true north. Now, whether it tilted the whole planet or if the who knows, but something happened that changed that. I just want to get off of that because I'm gonna screw it up trying to think about it. And but that was the thing he was talking about, and that I'd never really heard before either. But if you go back far enough, there appears to be some change, because again they were all trying to build their things with a northern orientation. Well, if you go back far enough, it's wrong compared to what it is now. And because true north is true north. It isn't like some of the ones where, I think this is in Göbekli Tepe, but there was a building and they sat there and they looked at it. Well, their theory is that it was built so that you could see a certain constellation at a certain time of the year. And that is a way that they've dated them, because what they found is that after a while they would build a new structure and it would be orientated differently. And it was as the constellation shifted every couple hundred or a couple thousand years in the sky. And I can't remember which constellation it is, but that's another thing that they've done. What I'm going to do is I'm going to let this go because I'm getting lightheaded anyways. And then if I can feel like I can safely do it, I got to go put some stuff in the dryer, and it's going to take a while. I'm going to go put some stuff in the dryer, and I got to bring my next load of clothes out and put it in the washing machine. I hope everybody has a good day. I'm going to keep working on as much as I can today. I'm getting lightheaded, so not having to talk anymore will help me out. But I will. I might even watch that thing again. I might, or I'm going to watch some of the ones that they put up last night that I haven't watched yet. But yeah, I'll get that done if I can, and then maybe I'll be on tomorrow. If not, I'll try to be on. I can't remember what day it is, but whatever day I got to go to the doctor, I might not be on that day. And I'm not right now. It's even worse, but I'm not entirely sure what. I thought it was yesterday. Yeah, yesterday I thought it was going to be tomorrow, and I don't think it is anymore. I'm not really that sure. I'm getting lightheaded. But peace out, and I hope everybody has a good day.